Well, with martial law and political upheaval in South Korea, a Prime Minister gone and more political machinations to come in France, there's been plenty happening in global affairs. In the US, Donald Trump's been facing hiccups assembling his team, with question marks re-emerging now over his Defence Secretary choice, Pete Hegseth. I asked former Foreign Minister Alexander Downer whether this was a major dilemma or some of the usual toing and froing over a new administration.
I think two things about it. First of all, it's normal toing and froing that you would expect. He has to get the Republican senators to feel comfortable with his nominations. But secondly, I would say more generally, he's much better organised than he was in 2016. I mean, at this early stage, and it's more than a month until he assumes the role of president, he's lining up quite a long team of people, and they reflect very much his priorities. I mean, these people are largely loyalists, and that's what you'd expect. I mean, people who voted for him don't want to have people who are trimmers, who start winding back his agenda. They want him to deliver on his agenda. So he's had one or two problems, and that's inevitable. But I think what he's showing is a complete determination to deliver on what he promised he would deliver during the election campaign.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. I'm pretty keen to get your analysis on two countries that are significant and usually stable countries, both good friends of Australia's and important to Australia in different ways, but both facing dramatic political upheaval at the moment. First off, let's talk about South Korea and the imposition of martial law there for a period. What's going on there, and what can we expect to unfold, Alexander?
So the president at a parliamentary election, legislative election, lost control of the parliament, and he's obviously become frustrated as a result of that. But by declaring martial law, he's done what politicians occasionally do, which is just go one step too far. And I think he will be, I mean, he's reversed the decision within hours, within something like 6 hours, he reversed the decision. But I don't think he will survive this. I think his own party, which is the Conservative Party there in Korea, will join with the soft left, the Democratic Party, and ensure that he steps down. I think declaring martial law was just a step too far for anybody who believes in liberal democracy.
Yeah, his judgments has got to be questioned for sure. Now, it is a volatile part of the world, of course, with the border with North Korea, and there have been references to North Korea in these exchanges, but there's no imminent threat to security in South Korea, is there?
No, there's not, no. I mean, the president, he has been claiming that the opposition was somehow operating hand in glove with the North Koreans. Frankly, that's completely absurd. They may not like him as a president. They may be more left of centre. They may want to do deals with North Korea, which the left in South Korea mainly do want to do. Whereas the president, coming from the conservative side of politics, is much more hard-line towards North Korea. But the opposition are certainly not in the hands of the North Koreans. There's no question of that. It's an absurd allegation to make. So, look, in the end, I think he'll have to resign.
We will watch and see. A very important trading partner of Australia's is South Korea. Let's go to Europe, though, and talk about France. Again, political upheaval. No martial law, thankfully, but quite a bit of upheaval there. And is this being driven by economic factors?
So this goes back to June, when President Macron suddenly dissolved the parliament. There were parliamentary elections and nobody won them, so it's a hung parliament. But the left, which is quite far left, and the right, being Marine Le Pen and her party, you know, they have the lion's share of the seats, whereas the centrists, which is Macron's team, they don't have a majority. So they did have a majority before the election. So what has happened is that France has run up huge debts. massive budget deficit, government debt well over 100% of GDP, and the government is beholden to the markets. I mean, they just have to get their debt back under control and their deficit back under control. So Michel Barnier was the Prime Minister. He tried to get a budget through the Parliament, has failed to do so. The President will have to appoint another Prime Minister, but whoever he appoints, as Michel Barnier made clear to the Parliament today, whoever he appoints has to get the legislation, that is the budget, through the Parliament somehow. So I can't see how that's going to happen. And to make matters worse, under France's constitution, they can't have an election until the middle of next year. So this is just an excruciating deadlock.
Winding back government spending is never easy, always creates political problems, and as you say, that'll take a while to play out there. It's all making our politics look rather pedestrian, but then I think we may have that reckoning yet to come. Thanks for joining us, Alexander. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Chris.